Good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Here I am doing one of my favorite things of the day, one of my favorite times of day, morning, and one of my favorite things, which is to sit here and talk to you while I drink a cup of coffee, and go get yourself one. Go get yourself something to sip on while we chat about a couple of things that I think you'll find interesting. Today I am drinking out of one of our Stonemont's Scripture Series mugs. And it says, if you can read it, the true test of your faith is when you don't understand anything at all and still trust God. Man, I have been there. Have you been there? I bet you have. I have been there more often than I would like. And on the sidebar there is one of my favorite scriptures, and that is, "Be still and know that I am God." You know, we get ourselves entangled in so many things, don't we? I mean, the world is a mess. The world is crazy. The world is much more complicated than the average person thinks or can even begin to suspect, in my opinion. And we can sure make our own lives complicated if we try to do everything ourselves and figure everything out and all that, instead of living the kind of life that the good Lord meant us to, and that is simply follow Him, right? Start your day, end your day. Lord, I'm yours. Show me what you want me to do. Head me in that direction. Use me for your purpose, and there I go. That's the way to live life. That's the way to live. Let me take one sip here, and then I'm going to talk about this, because that has to do with the best way to do preparedness too, right? I started off my day after I got out of bed, and I checked my messages, and there was a message from a friend of mine, and we were talking. He was giving me some more information on his thoughts on the Charlie Kirk assassination, and he and I have discussed this. We both have our questions and our thoughts about it. I'm not getting into that, to be honest. He's former military. I'm former law enforcement. So, we come at it from slightly different backgrounds, but we, being thinking people, we arrive at pretty much the same place. He brought up a couple of things that I had not thought about, because he's more of a gun guy than I am. But anyway. And I don't know, maybe I thought some things, brought up some things that he hadn't. But it reminded me that I wanted to tell you about a book that I think that you'd be very interested in. It's a book that he was a part of writing. And it has to do with how complicated the world is. While we're all consumed with what's going on around the world, well, hey, the peace deal, right? And hostages being returned today. I'll give you my thoughts on that. I think that it's great. My hopes, I have low hopes that this is going to last. I'll be real honest. I've been watching this stuff since Arafat and the PLO, and I don't trust either side on this. I really don't. And both sides have been. Well, I'll just leave it at that. It'd be nice if it holds. I don't have high hopes in it, and I know that there are some, because I already watched a video on this. The end of the worlders are saying that the violence in the world and the wars and all this kind of stuff are proof that we're in the end times. But I've said we've been in the end times. Don't be fooled about this. This is and for those of you not particularly interested in the theological end times, don't worry. I'm only going to be on this about 30 more seconds. Then we're going to get into a book that I think you will be very interested in, the fifth column. And it does have to do with the craziness of the world and being prepared. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, the end of the worlders. When wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes and this and that and the other things, and they'll tell you that things have never been this bad, and that's only because they don't know their history. That's proof that we're approaching the end, right? But like I've said, we've been in the end times since the resurrection. We don't know how long that's going to be. But now that there's peace in the Middle East, okay, that's also, according to them, proof that we are now approaching the end. The danger here is that you can make a case for both of those if you constrain yourself to only believing certain parts of the Bible. Here's the danger of a little knowledge. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. The Bible, believe it or not, it's a big book, right? It is full of information that if you don't know how it all fits together, it seems conflicting. And you can find anything in there pretty much that would support any position you would like to take. That's the danger. We have too many people who have either been raised in churches or convinced by pastors or convinced themselves or whatever that such and such is happening. There are truths in the Bible, okay, but that's not what I'm talking about here. He is the way, the truth, and the life. That's a truth. But there are plenty of things in the Bible that if a person has already decided to believe a certain thing, they can find multiple things in there to support their position if they don't include a large enough context. So that's all I'll say there. Don't worry about this, and don't be misled by those people. Okay, so I got up today, read a text from Tom. Now Tom brought me this book. It's a book that he and his good friend John Fenzel, and Tom's name is Tom Rendell. There it is. They wrote. Actually, he says that John really wrote most of it, but Tom was a part of it. He was kind of the support and he assisted in it. I'll just put it that way. He gives most of the credit to John. I'll say that. But Tom was a part of it. Now, before I read this, let me read you their biographies, and this in no way goes into everything that they actually did. It's only what can be put on a book cover, right? And John Fenzel, that's him right there, and Tom Rendell, that's my friend down there, right? Okay, so John Fenzel is a retired senior special forces officer who served on our nation's battlefields throughout Europe and the Middle East. He served on the personal staffs of the Secretary of Defense, Army Chief of Staff, and the Vice President of the United States. Following the Cold War, he led the first U.S. deployments to Pakistan and the Baltic states. He lives with his wife and 3 children in Annapolis, Maryland. He is also the author of The Lazarus Covenant and The Sterling Forest. Okay, and Tom Rendell is a retired senior special forces officer, an accomplished historian, strategist, planner, and practitioner of intelligence and special operations. He has served in the war and crisis zones around the world. Tom doesn't like to get into the specifics of what he did. He lives with his wife on a ranch in the American West. And he don't want you to know where that is either. So, the story of the 5th column has to do with how complex our world is right now, and it's going to give you an eye. First off, I suggest you buy it. You can get it on Amazon. Okay, the 5th column by John Fenzel and Tom Rendell. Get it, read it. It's going to give you an idea of how crazy things get. I've told you before, I was inside the monster for long enough to know exactly how. Well, who knows? I don't know if you can ever understand how crazy it is until you get to the total bottom, and I wanted out before I got to the bottom of everything. So I'll read to you what it says right on the fly notes. It'll give you an idea of the story. Okay, it says, when your oath is to defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's an important. By the way, you all read Matt Bracken's books, right? If you haven't, do so. The first one being Enemies Foreign and Domestic. Now back to this. No duration is defined, and there is no statute of limitations. Luke Archer is a retired Special Forces colonel and CIA operator. That is reflective of one of the authors. Who never expected or wanted to go back to those days of living in the shadows and at the tip of the spear. But when he wakes up early one morning to the sound of a helicopter landing in his front yard, those hopes and expectations are forever dashed. Called back to Langley, he asks to identify an elusive terrorist leader known as the Ghost, who only he can identify. Reluctantly, Archer agrees to assist, and in the aftermath of that operation, his life is turned upside down. Reuniting with his former team members, he learns that an old teammate has been deliberately poisoned with a rare substance that only sophisticated nation states possess. You might think that we're getting into that kind of outlandish stuff. We're not. Launching his own investigation, here's where it gets to the point to where I can very personally identify with. Archer suddenly finds himself at the FBI's most wanted terrorist, fighting an entrenched government network of high-level officials who will stop at nothing to take over the United States from within. In a deadly race against time, through the unseen corridors of power, Archer uncovers dark forces that threaten the security and stability of the nation, leading to a personal revelation that is all but impossible for him to conceive. Riveting, explosive, and all too evocative of today's political environment, The Fifth Column is an unforgettable story that has been torn from today's headline. John Fenzel and Tom Rendell have created a page-turning thriller that provides extraordinary view of our nation's history, our democracy, and those who have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know what I immediately saw when I first started scanning through the pages is it mentions, I won't tell you how much it gets into it, the CIA unit, SAD they call it, Special Activities Division. They changed that to something. What did they change it to? Special Activities something or other. I don't remember. Center, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, it's a unit with which most people are not familiar. I won't go into it any more than that. So this book, it starts peeling the layers off of the national and international onion. Let me just put it that way. You know how crazy things are in our world, right? Or at least, and I don't mean this in any way that's deprecating, okay? At least you think you do. And the reason that I say that is because, you know, I've known a lot of people who thought that they knew how nutso everything was, until I started explaining things that I knew. And this isn't to make me be all that, you know. It's just a fact. And when I start explaining really what goes deeper and deeper and deeper, they are shocked. They are shocked. And so the average person, the reason that I say that is because the average person, and there's nothing wrong with being average. As a matter of fact, there was many times, well, I think that in many ways being average is preferable. I mean, you live a better life, to be honest. In some ways, not in others. Just remember, the true test of your faith is when you don't understand anything at all and still trust God. I've been there. And I forgot to tell you, you can get those on our website, stonemont.us, as far as the whole scripture set. You'd love them. It's the way that we put things out to let you, remind yourself of some of the important things. In the set this comes in, one is the 23rd Psalm, another is John 3:16, and another is from Chronicles. Remember, heal their land. If my people who are called according to my name, okay. So stonemont.us. Go get yourself some. You'll like them. Buy a set for a friend. But the average person doesn't have any idea of how messed up this world is. They think they do. But you just take that if you're average. And some of you here aren't. I know that some of you here know deep down what's going on. Just take what you know and multiply it by, I don't know, 100, 1,000, I don't know. The point of it is that while we're thinking about, while the people are consumed with, Russia, Ukraine, and the peace process over there, and all upset and stamping their little feet and pounding their little fists on the table about why don't we know about Epstein and what's going on with Turning Point USA. There are so many things going on beneath the surface that I'll stop saying average and start saying normal person doesn't have a clue about. This book gives you a peek inside there. And what that should do for you as a preparedness-minded person is to magnify. Why do I don't need those to see you. Is to magnify your understanding that the world is full of things that you can't do anything about. You don't even know most of them. Okay. Again, that's not meant to be, diminishing on your part. I hope that you're a normal person. But these are things that you can't do anything about. And most of them you don't know much about. And so how do I want to put this? And so all of your mental energy and time that you put into being upset about the distractions is really wasted energy and time. This brings us back to the central core purpose of preparedness, and that is to ensure that you can continue to live a high-quality life regardless of what comes down the road. Whether that's a financial collapse, which so many people continue to warn you about, a banking collapse, this and that, nobody can afford anything. I'm still hearing people say that. If you watch the one that I put up earlier today, it was from yesterday's, what do they call it? Sugar Mound Festival down in Mound City. And I entitled it Preparedness Festival or something like that. Because those people were involved in one of the greatest elements of preparedness, and they were out there making money. And I made a couple of statements. I won't go through all that. You can watch it. But you hear all these people on these channels telling you that everybody's broke, nobody can afford anything, nobody has any money, nobody. Okay. And Kelly had a record day, had a record weekend, and everybody down there was just making money hand over fist. You don't do that if nobody has any money. So as I said at the end of that, stop letting the losers lead you astray. If they don't have any money, let them go on about their own bad selves down that poverty road. You don't want to go with them. Okay, so lift yourself out of those kinds of things and get up on the right side of preparedness. And that's what preparedness really is. Preparedness is doing the things that are necessary to enable you to continue to live a high quality life no matter what happens, no matter if the inflation increases, no matter if you lose your job, no matter if the whole world falls apart. Those of you, maybe this is probably a good time to slide in our sponsor for this, and that's my books. You all read the Stonemont series? Many of you have. Some of you haven't, and shame on you. It's my series of books that I wrote. The first one, the reversion, came out in 2017. It's the story of a prepared family who, as a result of their preparedness, was not only able to continue living a high-quality life after a total collapse of everything, the whole world, as a result of a CME, but was able to help other people as well. And we see, I say it's the complete guide to preparing for, surviving, and rebuilding after a total collapse of everything. This is the guy who wrote the foreword to the first couple of books. Said it is an unbelievably positive story about an unbelievably negative situation. Well, that's true. What could be more negative than the whole world falling apart, right? But I don't approach it from negativity, because I don't approach anything from negativity. If something bad happens, I say, okay, how do I deal with this? And how do I come out the other side better, stronger, whatever it is? And many of you do too, and if you don't, You should. And so that's what I try to encourage people to do. This book series, if you haven't read it, I'd suggest this be the next thing you do if you are serious about preparedness, or if you just like a good post-apocalyptic story. Okay, you can get it a couple of different ways. You can get it on Amazon, links down below, or you can get it a better way, and that is directly through me, through our website, stonemont.us, and order it through there. And when you do that, I sign each one for you, and I write a note in each one for you, and you can buy them as a set through our website. You can't do that through Amazon, but you can buy the whole set. And when you do that through the website, and when you do that, we're able to give you a bit of a discount, because we save money on shipping and everything when we send them as a set, as opposed to individually or just 2 books or something like that. They do need to be read sequentially. They're a sequence. Okay, so read them in order, or you'll still like them. You'll get a lot out of them, but you won't get the whole story, right? So read them in order. And also, when you get them from me, I throw in the Stonemont notebook. And I'll read you a couple things off the Stonemont notebook that will apply to you right now, and that you should always keep in mind, because they are central to preparedness. On the front of the notebook, it has Proverbs 16:3. It says, "Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established." And what that means is, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will succeed. Now, that's only if your works are according to the Lord, but you should have asked him first, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" And then when he tells you, you do it, and you commit those works to him, and he's going to make them work, because it's his plan, right? On the back, I have Psalm 127:1, another one of my favorites, and that is, "Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain." That means if the Lord's not in your work, it ain't gonna work. So that's the plan on how to insulate yourself from the problems of the world. Okay, that's what the Stonemont series is about. Reading Tom's book, John and Tom's book, The Fifth Column, is going to, not only is it a great story, you will love the story, especially of those of you who really enjoy military and intelligence work and things like that, and how complicated the world is, and how corrupt government is, and it'll give you an insight from people who know. And I've been meaning to do it. Matter of fact, the book that I'm working on now, the organized crime book. Yes, I'm still working on number 8 for the Stonemont series, but I'm working on an organized crime book that actually it also gets into that. Don't know when that'll be done. But this gives you an insight into the real complexities, the depth of corruption in the world, why certain things happen, why certain things don't happen, how to deal with certain things. You probably won't go to the extent that the characters in here do, but you'll enjoy the extent they go to. And you'll say, right. Just like a lot of the scenes in my book. You may not do that, but even though you might not do it, you go, yeah, right? So anyway, hey, the world's a crazy place. We know it is. We know that it's getting crazier all the time. And we know that it's not up to the other people in the world to take care of us, right? Because we are PMPs, preparedness-minded people. And we know that whining and complaining about things doesn't do anything. We know that it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves and those who depend on us. And we know that doing it under the direction and protection and guidance of the good Lord is the only real way to do it. Right? Okay. So, I've enjoyed talking to you this morning. I hope that you have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And remember that the true test of your faith is when you don't understand anything at all, or as I might say, a stinking thing, and still trust God, because he is trustworthy. You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.